Hello one, hello all, it's the most albumless ghost of them all, Casper in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Scarcity, The Promise of Rain. Before we get started, I would like to address the elephant in the room. I forgot my CDs, unfortunately, so there's gonna be no CDs here. And Sean is actually away. He told me he was at someone else's house, which is weird because he normally travels with me at all times, unfortunately, but I digress. Okay, review time. This is the sophomore LP of Brooklyn-based band Scarcity. Or is it Scarcity? I don't know, forgive me. And they are off of the label The Flenser, which is a record label that has released some of my favorite projects of all time, be it Chat Pile with God's Country, or Have a Nice Life with Death Consciousness, or the album that I praised highly last year, which was unfortunately their last album, Sprain, Lamb as Effigy. Certainly a handful of greats, and honestly, you know, I keep on touch of the Flenser, and with this band and the style of music they do, I was like, why the hell not? Let me check this out. You know, one of my favorite genres, one of my favorite labels. Let's do it. So with Scarcity, they certainly do bring a different brand of black metal. So while you are getting your blast beats, your retched vocals, your bass arpeggios, they also incorporate a very vast amount of distortion, chaotic arpeggios with a lot of feedback, and they are very creative when it comes to the feedback on the guitar because the way they do it makes it sound like you're hearing these sound effects in opposed to the actual instrument, but in a good way, of course. They arpeggiate the feedback on the guitar so well that it sounds to me like an ambulance siren or something. And not just an ambulance siren, but also a siren in the apocalypse, like an apocalyptic event has occurred and people are just scurrying for their lives in this post-apocalyptic dystopian world. And they also add atmosphere as well, similar to Krallis in a way, with these ghostly layered vocals, and they are very abrasive. They really do want to put the listener at unease, anxiousness, but also they want to haunt you at the same time. Honestly, this sounds like the soundtrack to the unnerving event of a zombie apocalypse going on. I know I mentioned apocalypse before, but let me elaborate more on that. I'm talking about like zombie apocalypse, ambulances going for whatever EMTs are left on Earth, the zombies are running rampant, and evil spirits are just casting through the air. So they're not just hitting you with these distorted riffs, but also these chugging guitar riffs as well. And in terms of sonic variation on the highlights, they're also not afraid to add some guitar melody to the mix. However, I do think the midpoint does get pretty tedious, and I'll explain later, but I would like to touch on my admirations first, which is mostly due to their creative approach when it comes to this album. Building intensity, ferocity, and also dabbling with other elements as well. You know, it's not just black metal, you're getting dissonant black metal, you're getting noise, and they definitely do have a knack for building intensity. And when they do build intensity and build that tension, they give you that explosion that is much desired in black metal. And I must say too, in the highlights of this, it is pretty unpredictable. With The Promise of Rain, I feel like when they're cooking with gas, they are cooking on 11. And this gas on 11 is in a firestorm to absolute hell. The way they play to the murderous arpeggios that are on this, the blast beats, they complement each other really well. And also the vocals too. Man, the vocals. Not only are you getting these retched vocals, but these layered cavernous vocals as well as some manic vocal inflections. Everything mixing in this album just creates this sonic, otherworldly quality that I do admire. And it's not just retched vocals, it's not just high vocals too. The lead singer also does these guttural, vocals too that I feel are a nice touch. And I love the fiery tremolos on Scorched Visions, where the tremolo pick guitars, the arpeggios are just so hellish and absolutely blistering. Now, for this project at the midpoint, unfortunately, as I mentioned before, it does get pretty stagnant. It does hit a bit of a lull where we get repetition and honestly leads to some unsatisfying endings. Not that they're bad. I just feel like when you've had so much creativity in the beginning of this, I feel like they start to paint themselves into a corner. Some songs start sounding the same. But I will admit though, we do get that epic closer that we rightfully deserved. But I will admit though, the closer, epic. It's a strong, long closer with some really nice builds, great apocalyptic galloping guitar leads, with nice tremolo layers, and I will say, solid finish to the album. I will not deny, in the lane of black metal, they are doing something different, something to differentiate themselves. I'm finding it very creative. I'm finding intricacy within their work. However, I do wish that they kept it consistent throughout the album. So in the future, I would love something with more cohesion, maybe something that goes a little more the distance, but I won't deny that the playing's great, vocals are killer, but again, I do wish it was more consistent and longer too. But I'm feeling a 3.5 out of 5 on this album. If you've given this a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? I am your plug. Hit me with a sub. Give me some love. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Scarcity. Till we meet again.